Hey, what's up guys? Fundamentals of photography, like the exposure triangle. This took me a stupidly long time to understand. I just learned by getting it wrong. Without further ado, let's go to the board. Behind me is my trusty whiteboard, Officeworks special, great. We're going to talk about the exposure triangle. Three elements, the aperture, the shutter speed, and ISO. The first time I took a photograph on an actual camera, it came out black. And then I learned how to do this. At the end of this lesson, I'm going to wrap a few photos I took this morning. So street photography and maybe a few shots and headshots that I do sort of semi-professionally. Right, let's go over to the board. First things first, exposure triangle. This is an artist rendition of the exposure triangle. So it's made up of three main parts. Aperture, I spelled that wrong, I can never get it right. And the shutter speed and the ISO. What's ISO stand for? I had absolutely no idea, so I googled that shit. International Organization for Standardization. What? My exact response. The acronym should be iOS, but we say ISO, whatever. Aperture controls the amount of light that comes in and also the depth of field, which is the depth of field is how you can get photos where like the person is nice and clear and the background is all sort of blurred out. You'll see it represented as something like f-stop, 1.4, 2.8, 11, 22. The lower the number, the light that gets into the camera. Here's a quick demonstration of what that aperture f-stop looks like on camera. So 1.4. If you close it, you can see all the blades they're closing out. They don't let in as much light. Main things I shoot is gig photography. The main reason I'm able to get like the nice, crisp, clear photos is I have a lens like that that lets that tiny little bit of light in. It would be super blurry and a bit shit. Shutter speed. This one controls how long the sensor is exposed to light, and you can achieve some pretty cool effects once you learn how to use this. Shutter speed affects the amount of light. So a slow shutter speed lets in lots of light, but it also makes the photo very blurry. When I say blurry, I should clarify, if you're using a tripod and you're shooting something still, it will be nice and still. If you're shooting anything moving, like someone that's doing this, you will get blurry hands. If you're on the camera, it looks a bit like this. Like I find these are probably the best for shooting people on a stage. The trade-off is the higher this number is, the darker it gets. 1/1000, like you use this for shooting sports or fast-moving animals, you can get boxing. You can also go lower on purpose, and you can sometimes capture a nice cool like blur effect on a punch or something like that. 1/125, I don't generally shoot handheld below this. You can get shutter speeds that go right down to 1.5 and then even a whole second. So people use this to shoot waves, oceans, rivers, traffic, blur effect across the photo. It looks kind of cool. When you have your shutter speed like this low, there is a lot of light coming in through. It can be whiting out your photo. You get a special filter to put over the top that lets you keep the shutter speed to get the effect, but it darkens the picture. Lastly, the International Organization for Standardization. This is never going to make sense to me, but ISO. This one is on your camera, and it's just a number, so 40, 60, 80, 100. A lot of cameras will go up to 25,600 ISO. Some of the more higher end cameras will go even higher than that. ISO lets you see in the dark effectively, but there is a massive trade-off. The higher you raise your ISO, blurry the image gets. This is the exposure meter, so it will either look like this or maybe like this. I want to aim for 0, but the closer it is to 0, like the more perfectly balanced that the photo is going to be. You shoot automatic mode, like the camera will just work this stuff out for you. You kind of learn how to use manual mode, then you need to understand the relationship that these things have with each other. So every time you change something on the exposure triangle, so you then have to take an opposite action and you have to decrease the shutter speed to adjust, because if you lower the aperture, your light will now go up. Balance it out, you have to increase the shutter speed to make the light go down. And then if you can't get it right, that's when we go over to the ISO. Always do this one last. Like unless you're intentionally trying to get grainy photos, you want to create like an old-timey sort of film photograph look. There are people out there that do it and it looks amazing. I can't do it. I tried it. It looks shit. That's when you would raise the ISO. So if you're shooting in a light area, it'd be fine. It's only when you start shooting in horrendously dark places, like comedy gigs, it becomes difficult. That's all I was going to talk about today. Basically just go out there and do it and get it wrong, and then you'll figure it out. That's the basics of the exposure triangle, and it's the number one thing that you need to learn if you want to take photos on something other than an iPhone. Cool, that's it from me. I'm going to throw up a couple of photos I took today and a few of my headshots and gig shots that I can find, and that'll be it. See you guys another time. Cheers.